Building muscle is actually really easy. Coaches and influencers on Instagram and TikTok just make it out to be so much harder than what it really is. And that's usually to make themselves sound like they know something that you don't. And if I'm being honest, you probably hold yourself back subconsciously because of it. Now look, I always used to struggle with putting on size as well. I've always been skinny, I've always had skinny abs, I played a lot of sports as a kid, and when I started getting into training, I found it really hard to see some sort of muscle growth until I became more consistent. You are not a hard gainer, you just need to eat more food. A lot of people fall into the trap of telling themselves that they're a hard gainer. Oh, I just find it hard to eat all this food, I just find it hard to put on muscle. Yes, you might, but all that means is that you just need to be more consistent with eating more food more frequently. If you're someone who struggles to put on size, then you just have to actively try to put on more size. Okay, that means, as I've just said, eating more food, training really hard, sleeping better, recovering better. All of these things combined are going to help you to build more muscle and get rid of that thought process and that limiting belief that you've got of telling yourself that you're a hard gainer. And look, the reality is, if you're telling yourself you're a hard gainer and that you struggle to grow muscle, you're going to give yourself a free pass when you don't get the results. Oh, I'm not getting the results because I'm a hard gainer. No, mate. You need to wipe yourself of that mentality and that negative mindset, and you need to start telling yourself that I can build muscle, I will build muscle, and I am building muscle. Now, we obviously don't want to be delusional with it. You obviously have to make sure you're doing the actions that actually help you to achieve that goal. It's not just about telling yourself you're going to do this thing, it's also about following it up with the actions required. You also need to stop trying to look for the optimal way to grow. There is no optimal way to grow. Everyone is totally different. Now, there are going to be methods and things that you can try to help you accelerate your growth 100%, but at the end of the day, you cannot take away from the basic fundamental that to optimize your muscle growth, you have to train 4 to 5 times per week, every single week, consistently, and within those sessions, you must train fucking hard. And it is as simple as that. Please do not overcomplicate it any more than that. Now, what does training hard really mean? We've obviously got to have a good training program, well put together, well balanced, so you're going to hit each muscle group pretty evenly across the week. But when it comes to the actual training itself, my personal approach is, if you're doing 3 sets, on set 1, try and maybe keep 1 rep in reserve. On set 2, try and maybe keep 1 rep in reserve. On set 3, go to complete and utter maximal failure. Push your body to its limits, see how far you can go, see how many reps you can get. If your form starts to break down a little bit, good. That means you're training to failure. That means the muscle that you're trying to target is starting to get fatigued and your body is trying to use those other muscles to help you move the weight. So this is a good thing, but you can still challenge that muscle even once you're at that point of fatigue. You can still get a couple partial reps out, which is going to help you to stimulate the muscle growth a little bit further than what you normally would. But let's just go back a minute. What does 1 rep in reserve mean? What that means is to get to the point where you are very, very, very close to achieving muscular or mechanical failure, but then as soon as you feel like you've got 1 absolute grinder rep left, you drop the weight. Now, the reason most people get 1 rep in reserve or 2 or 3 reps in reserve wrong is because they don't really know what true failure feels like, and you might be the same. So rather than thinking, I'm going to keep 1 rep in reserve or 2 reps in reserve, honestly, don't even really think about that. If you can just push yourself as close to muscular failure as you can possibly get, you're really going to start to understand how far you can really push your body. And only until you get to that point or train to that level of intensity is then when you can start to use 1 or 2 reps in reserve, because you will truly understand what 1 rep or 2 reps in reserve actually feels like. Because unfortunately, what's happening at the minute is people are training with 2 reps in reserve, but actually it looks more like 5 or 6 reps in reserve. So you're leaving gains on the table. So stop looking for the most optimal way to train, okay? Just train fucking hard, 4 or 5 times a week, push yourself to your absolute max, get to the point where your form starts to break down towards the end of your sets, and you're probably training hard enough to grow a bit of muscle. I want you to remember that it is through failure where we grow. You need to understand that if you're giving up during these challenging or difficult times, then all you're doing is training your mind to give up when it gets hard. This is another mentality that you have to get out of, because training is hard. Meal prepping consistently is hard. Eating the right foods consistently all the time can be quite hard. Making sure you get 8 hours of sleep every night can be quite hard as well. These things are quite hard, but that's the price you have to pay to build the muscle. That's the price you have to pay to get to the level of physique you want. So if you're going to give up at every single little challenge, then you're probably never going to get to the type of physique you want. So every time you feel a challenging situation coming onto you, try and change the way you frame that. Rather than it being, oh no, this is hard, I'm going to give up, try and change it to, this is a challenge. This means that I'm pushing myself hard enough to get some resistance. And if I just push through this resistance, there is going to be a reward or a light at the end of that tunnel. You treat your body like a bin. And what I mean by that is you consume rubbish. Your nutrition is absolutely crap. And look, what you consume directly impacts how you look, how you feel, and how you perform. So if you're eating takeaways 1, 2, 3 or more times per week, that is atrocious. Or if you're getting meal deals every day at work, or you're skipping breakfast every morning, or whatever it might be, right? If you're not fueling your body with what it needs, then your body's not going to perform or look how you want it to. So if you just make that effort to eat a better breakfast, meal prep your lunches for the week, cook something nice in the evening for dinner, have a decent post-workout, if you start to eat better quality nutrition, you're going to have a better quality physique. That is literally how it works. I remember back to a couple years ago when I was bulking and I was eating takeaways once or twice a week. I was eating very flexible nutrition, but that reflected in my physique. Yes, I was growing and yes, I was getting bigger, but I looked watery. I had more spots on my face. I had a puffier face. And this was just because I was fueling my body with pretty crap food. Not all the time, and most of the time I was eating well, but I was eating a bit of crap on the side of it as well. And even just those few shitty meals throughout the week really reflected on my physique. Whereas now, and in my most recent bulk, things were pretty damn clean, and my physique looked pretty clean as well. I didn't get a puffy face, I wasn't getting spots, I wasn't having oily skin, and yeah, this just goes to show that your nutrition does have a direct impact on how you look, how you perform, and how you feel. And look, no one likes being called out for being inconsistent, but you're inconsistent, and that's why you're still skinny. The major change for me was just being more consistent with my protocols. I was more consistent with hitting my calories every single day, because before I would track for a couple of days throughout the week and I would hit my calories, but then on those other days where I wasn't tracking, I probably wasn't hitting calories. I probably wasn't eating very clean. So just being more consistent with tracking allowed me to then be more consistent with the quality of the nutrition I was eating and making sure I was hitting my calories and my macros consistently every single day. Now, I personally have always trained hard. If you don't train hard every single session, this is something that you need to start improving. You have to train hard 4 to 5 times a week, consistently every single week. You should also be aiming for PBs pretty much every single week within your training. And now I'm not talking with every exercise you need to be hitting a PB, but at least 1 or 2 exercises, even per session, you should be hitting a PB. And that doesn't mean a higher weight every single week. That just means, can you do more than what you did the previous week? And if you could just compound those progressions week after week after week, you are hitting PBs every single week, right? And one of the final major keys that is going to contribute to you achieving the level of physique you want is more consistent sleep. I think the whole world right now is in a sleep deprivation crisis. People are sleeping for like 4, 5 or 6 hours every night and thinking that's fine. It is not fine, mate. You need to be sleeping between 7 to 8 hours every single night. And there's even arguments that for athletes or trained people, we should be sleeping up to 10 hours every single night. Now, that is quite excessive. I personally feel my best on about 8 hours sleep, and I suggest you probably do the same with 7 to 8 hours. Honestly, if you can just be consistent with the things that I've mentioned today, and of course those last 3 major keys that I mentioned, then you're going to achieve a level of physique that you probably didn't think was possible. And you're going to do it a lot faster than everything you're trying at the minute. Even if you're trying to optimize things, even if you're trying to find the best this or the best that. And the issue with doing that is that you're looking for all of the right answers, but all of that time is wasted because you're not actually actioning anything. It's what we call paralysis by analysis. So stop over-analysing shit. Stop listening to these shitty influencers or shitty coaches on Instagram or YouTube. I guess I'm one of them. Besides, I'm not a shitty one because I'm giving you the simplified version of what you need to do to make the most physique progress possible. Honestly, focus on the things I've mentioned today. Improve your training, improve your nutrition, improve your sleep. Do that consistently for 6 to 12 months and you're going to be levels ahead of where you are now. And if you want the 2-year blueprint that I use to maximize muscle growth, click here and watch that video.